The next on our schedule is Ante Mihaljevic, an English business coach from Croatia. Yeah, here he is. Good morning, Ante. How are you?
Morning. I feel fine. What about you?
We are great. We're excited. Yeah, you look great as well.
Yeah, you look great.
Thank you. Likewise.
So together with Ante, we will learn how to let our voice be heard in the business environment and what are the things we knew before we graduated. And happy for you, for those who haven't graduated yet. So we are one step beforehand for you. So Ante, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I will be free and share my screen. I think people could have some use of that. So hello everybody and welcome to my presentation, Things I Wish I Knew Before I Graduated. Grammatically speaking, I could also say things I wish I had known before I graduated, but let's not get into those details now. So who am I and what is it that I do? I help people develop their business potential, business English potential, business communication in English potential. Now, usually when I talk to people, they complain that they're frustrated, they need to talk in English, or they're anxious because they can understand everything, but just getting to talk about it is not really easy for them. Some of them are really frustrated and irritated because in business, they're leaving a lot of money on the table because their English is not there yet. So this is what I help people get rid of, these frustrations, these fears, the lack of self-confidence. My clients come from really various industries. I think it would be easier to name one industry that wasn't my client so far rather than the otherwise. So today I will talk a lot about my mistakes. Mistakes that I would like you to avoid, or maybe it's really important for you to go through them, to learn the hard way. You decide for yourselves. All the stories you're about to hear are based on my courses and my experience. So for the last, 15 years, I've been listening to audiobook a day. Oh, sorry, a week, not a day. Not a day, definitely not a day. I don't have that much time. So a week. And what happens? Over the course of time, this knowledge accumulates. And I collect it and I use it in my courses, in my mastermind classes. So it really is quite fun and interactive for people. I'm also a president of BNI. I have been for the last 2 years and a member of BNI. So for those of you who don't know what BNI is, basically it's a networking organization. BNI stands for Business Networking International. Sorry about this. I need to find a way to shut down my tones. And it's actually my wife wishing me good luck. So imagine that. So Business Networking International is an organization that really focuses on helping people to find those useful contacts that they need in business environment. Now, today I will also mention networking, how important it is for you young people and stuff like that. But I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to what it is that I do and who I am. Also, I would like to riddle you. Now, I want you all to very, very carefully follow what I'm about to say. Think in English, exclusively in English. Don't think in your native language. So, think of any number from 1 to 10. Okay, you got the number? Right. Now, when you have this number, multiply it by 9. Some of you may have seen this one before. Still participate. So you have your ideal number, then you multiply by 9. Now you add those digits together. So probably you have a 2-digit number. From this, if you have a 2-digit number, add the numbers together. Okay? Minus 5. So subtract 5 from your final number. And math is done for you. So now you have some kind of number. Let's go to the alphabet. If your number is 1, your letter will be A. If it's 2, it's B, 3, C. If your number is 4 by any chance, your letter is D, and so on. Now that you have the numbers and the letters done, taken care of, focus on the letter, okay? Think of a European country that starts with this letter you're thinking of, okay? Now, visualize what this country, how do you spell this country, okay? Maybe you can even write it on a piece of paper, whatever. Okay, I want you to focus on the second letter of the name of this country. Okay? It's something. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Think of an animal whose name begins with that letter. Got it? So you have a country, second letter of the country, animal that begins with this letter, and the typical color of this animal. So if you have been following my instructions carefully, you should get to a country, to an animal, and to a color. But what's surprising about it is that in Denmark, you usually don't find gray elephants that often. Now, some of you might have gotten something else. But like I said, if you have been following my instructions, this is where you should have landed. The only point or purpose of this exercise is to get you thinking in English. Now that we have that, as I already announced, I will talk about mistakes. I will open and close with a story about birds. I want you to be like birds, you know, to fly, to be liberated and stuff like that. So the story I'm about to tell you is all about one huge mistake, but because of my mistakes, I am where I am today. Now, the story goes, and it's actually a funny name of a story, it's Moby Duck. So, in 1992, in January, there was a container ship that was traveling through Pacific Ocean, and for some reason, the container just fell into the sea or into the ocean, and all 28,800 or so ducks were washed away. So now you have 28,800 ducks in the ocean. So in terms of ecology, it's not really the best thing you could have. However, this mistake helped scientists, namely Curtis Ebbesmeyer was the guy who managed to trace ocean currents. Before this event, he had no way of tracking currents. So years and years after this tragic incident, the seas, the oceans would wash away rubber ducks in Arctic, in Alaska, wherever you can think of. So they managed to actually track where the oceans go. Like I said, the point of this is to help you understand that even if you make mistakes, they can really get you quite far. Another thing that I promised to talk about is Rosenthal Effect. So, Rosenthal Effect or Pygmalion Effect is a psychological phenomenon where high expectations lead to improved performance in a given area. This effect is actually named Pygmalion Effect. It's a Greek myth, a sculptor who fell in love with his statue, and it's also called Rosenthal Effect by psychologist Robert Rosenthal. The basic idea behind Rosenthal Effect is that if somebody has high expectations of somebody else, a member of a team or something like that, these people will intuitively sense the expectations, and they will do whatever they can to rise to this expectation. So, it's in a way self-fulfilling prophecy. In the same way you have Golem effect, which basically tells you that if you are quite negative about it, if you think that some member of your team will never be able to achieve some kind of goal, they won't. That's basically it. So to put it into practice, if you had, let's say you had a classroom, you're an elementary school teacher, and you have two kids, clones, twins, whatever, so they're identical background, everything. One is named, let's say, Jack, and another one is called Mark. So the principal or psychologist or somebody comes and tells you, listen up, here, the Jack, this boy's a genius. He's a genius. He's gonna go very far in his life. Mark, however, I highly doubt it. He has some learning difficulties. The teacher doesn't know that the kids are identical. In theory, by Rosenthal Effect, after 4 or 8 years of education, Jack, the prodigy kid, will really go places. Mark, however, would be nobody, so to speak. This is the effect of setting expectations quite high. Now, if you don't have somebody to believe in you, if you don't have somebody to set the bar high, screw it. You set the bar for yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You need to be the one who will set the expectations high and to reach them as well. Now, to do that, you need to set goals. And probably I really hope that some of you have heard of SMART goal setting. The one I will tell you about today is called smarter goal setting. It has a bit of addition here. And you know that it happens every year. You begin with great goals in January, but by December you wonder what the hell happened. And you end up trying to figure out where you went wrong. So lack of motivation may not be the problem. You may just be taking the wrong approach to goal setting. So if your goals are too vague, if they're unrealistic, or if they don't offer any reward for accomplishment, all that January enthusiasm could disappear by Valentine's Day. So the SMART approach can help. Let's talk about smarter approach. SMART, as you may know, is for specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and timely. This is what the acronym stands for. E and R, the ending of this acronym, are for enjoyable and rewards. Now, let's look at the process. Your goals need to be specific. Now, specific to be motivational and achievable. For example, if your goal is lose weight, read books, that's not enough. So by stating a specific goal instead of a vague one, you have something to focus on and pour this concentrated effort into. So specific goal makes it easier to lay out a path for success. So if you know that your goal is to read 52 books in 2021, okay, you will be pretty focused on finding those books, reading the reviews, finding time, finding where and how to read them, and so on. M stands for measurable. Now, one of the biggest benefits of setting specific goals is that you can easily measure success. So read more books could mean anything, while read a book a week can easily be measured. So a measurable goal makes it easier for you to see where you are in this process and motivate you to succeed. Another thing here that we need to mention is attainable. So for a goal to work, it has to actually be reasonable and achievable. And I'm going to try and peek into your industry, your sphere of profession right now. I'm going to talk about overweight people. Now, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think you'll be able to catch my drift here. If an overweight person decides to lose 30 kilos on January the 1st, they could be disappointed if in February they see, oh, I've lost only 3 kilos. Well, I don't know much about losing weight, but 3 kilos per month sounds okay to me. In 10, 12 months, you're going to get there. By setting expectations unreasonably high, they set themselves up for failure and disappointment. R in this acronym is for realistic. So some goals are simply not realistic with your current level of support, resources, time, money, whatever. So you're limited by your ability to produce a product or perform a service or meet the needs of your clients in future. So if you are, let's say that you are used to reading 2 books a year, really telling yourself 52 books in the next year could be an unreasonable goal. So think always about that as well. And then we have T. T is for timely. How long will you take to achieve the goal you have set? Now, if you don't set a deadline, it may seem like you reduce the pressure, but it also lowers this urgency level. So a goal with a timeline is easier to break down into weekly and monthly tasks. It's also easier to track and measure. So the timelines of your goal or timeline of your one goal has a direct impact. It really, if an overweight person is struggling to drop 30 kilos, if they really put it in some kind of time frame, they can do it. They just need the workaround. They need a framework for this. Now, the last 2 letters, enjoyable and reward, E and R. We, as human beings, naturally gravitate toward the things we enjoy doing. So you need to find a way to make working towards this goal fun for you. Understanding what makes you tick and what types of goals would resonate best will make it easier for you to buy into this process. Now, the reward, the final one. Okay, success is a reward in itself, but it doesn't have to be the only reward. If you can incentivize success by rewarding yourself when you meet your goals, you have a better chance of actually sticking to this goal. Now, since you have set clearly defined, reasonable and attainable goals with specific time limits, it will be easy to track and reward accomplishments. So this is about the goals. And we talked about Rosenthal Effect, how you should set the bar high for yourself and so on. Everything that I'm telling you so far is to condition you to think about your future self. So when I was back in college days, or when I freshly graduated, I wasn't thinking about future self. I was only trying to get a job, any type of job. Really, at one point I became really desperate. If we have enough time, maybe somebody in the questions can ask me that question, and I'll gladly tell you the story of my first employment. It was a really crazy story. Now, when you get into this business environment, when you start working for an employer, but even before that, there are some things you should take care of. These dimensions of professional behavior. Now, one of the first one is courtesy and respect. Always be punctual. I can't emphasize this enough. It tells a lot about who you are if you're late. If you're sending an email, if you're speaking, do so clearly and in a language that other people can understand. If you make an error, if there isn't some kind of misunderstanding, it's normal, it happens, it's natural. Apologize and move on. Notify the other person promptly when you're running late. So if you know that you're going to be late, really today we have all the technology. Don't be that person who just shows like a diva 15 minutes later. If somebody gives you constructive criticism, accept it. When you are supposed to give feedback, provide it fairly and gently. And always, always, always focus on active listening. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them in proportion. You will notice that majority of people listen to reply. Don't listen to reply. Listen to understand the position of the other person. You might learn really a lot. Also about appearance and appeal. In business setting, you should present yourself pleasantly with good hygiene and grooming. Men, boys, if you have like 5 facial hairs on your face, shave them. They don't really look that nice. You're not that masculine. Ladies, if you are going on a business meeting, dress to impress, but don't distract. So it's really, really important to be professional about it. Now, in one of my mastermind classes, I have a group of 12 people, 12 business people in one of them, and I gave them a question about annoying behavior of their employees, how they solved it, and so on. You wouldn't believe how many people mentioned smelly people. So personal hygiene is a huge problem in business setting, especially because there's nobody there to tell you about it. And then it falls onto the shoulders of HR or CEO or something like that. So be proactive in this regard, take a shower. It really is quite good for everybody involved in this process. And in terms of tolerance and tact, you have this experience throughout your everyday life. But in business environment, it's really essential to demonstrate self-control. People will really piss you off. That's gonna happen. Be fully aware of your behavior, of how you're feeling, and demonstrate self-control. Don't be a Facebook warrior. Don't stay away from public arguments, disagreements, especially in email and written documents. And if you have a personal opinion of somebody, keep it to yourself. Avoid snap judgments, especially when you're collaborating with other people. In terms of honesty and ethics, avoid even the smallest lies at all cost. If you've ordered a service or a product, pay for it promptly. If you got confidential information, keep it confidential. If you're working for a client, if you have your own company, don't badmouth competitors. Emphasize your company's benefits. Don't emphasize their flaws. You're just giving them attention, and you're not making yourself look that good. Now, in terms of reliability and responsibility, be that colleague that everybody can depend on. If you committed to do something, follow through. Keep the promise, keep the deadline. And always perform your work consistently and deliver effective results. That's really important. If you're giving a promise about quality of work, then make it realistic. That's extremely important. Now, the last one I would like to mention here is diligence. It's collegiality. Deliver only work you can be proud of. Strive for excellence at all times. If you have a customer, if you have a boss, some kind of employer, give them more than they expect. Be prepared before meetings, and be prepared when you're giving a presentation. Do what needs to be done. Don't be that person who leaves work for others to do. And always, always show willingness to share your knowledge, to share expertise. People will really appreciate that. If you give, you will gain. That's really strong principle, and the older I'm getting, the more I believe in it. If it's possible, volunteer. Offer volunteering services to a worthy community, charity group, find something you're passionate about, and join. Also, network. This is a topic in itself, and I could talk for days about how important it is to network. Not only because you will be connected, you will have these people who you can count on, not only that, but you will learn so much from others. Now, I also promised to talk about golf balls. Some of you might have seen this video in the past. Basically, it's some kind of philosophy class, and a professor came with a huge jar, and it was empty. And he remained silent throughout the whole process. So he took golf balls, like a box of golf balls, and he poured them into the jar. So the jar got full of golf balls. And he asked the students, "Is the jar full?" They said, "Yeah." Then he picked up a box of small pebbles, small stones, poured them into the jar. So he shook it lightly, and you can imagine that the pebbles actually filled in the empty space. So the professor then asked, "Is the jar full?" They said, "Yeah, it is." Then he took a box of sand, fine sand. So he poured it into the jar. Once again, shook it a bit, and obviously the sand just filled in the gaps. Then he asked the students, "Is it full?" They said, "Yeah, sure it is." Then he took a bottle of beer, or 2 beers, and he poured both of the bottles into the jar. So the liquid just got into all those small crevices, small holes. And then he asked them, "Is it full now?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's full." So he said, "I want you to realize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things: family, children, health, friends, passions. So if you only put this in the jar, your life is full, right? Now, the pebbles are the other things that really matter, like your job, your house, your car, stuff like that. Sand is everything else, the small stuff. So if you put the sand first into the jar, you wouldn't have room for pebbles or golf balls. And it's the same thing in life. So if you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, on the unimportant stuff, you will never have room for the things that are really important. So tip, advice, is to pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Play with your kids. I mean, when you get them. Spend time with your parents. Take your partner out for a dinner. Go on a medical checkup. There will always be time, trust me, there will always be time to clean the house, to fix the vacuum cleaner. So take care of the golf balls first, the things that really matter. Now, one of the students was like, "Hey, I have a question. Yeah, sure, go ahead. "Yeah, what's with the beer?" And he said, "I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show that no matter how full your life may seem, there is always room for a beer with a friend." So this was quite interesting video that you can find on YouTube. You can just write down golf balls, time management, or something like that. It's really quite motivating. Now, a few tips that I would say are as random as I can get them. I have some experience now, 15,000 hours of teaching people business English and working with people, and through the course of time, some stuff accumulated. And I would like you to go away today with a few important things. One of them, being enthusiastic is worth 25 IQ points. If you're enthusiastic about something, you will naturally radiate intelligence, goodwill, humor, everything will go through you. Also, be grateful. Whenever you're down because of any reason, maybe you're struggling with depression or whatever, of course you will seek the help of professional people, but whenever you're just down, practice gratitude. It will unlock all other virtues, and it's something you can always get better at. Once you get kids, read to them regularly. You will bond so much, and you will kickstart their imagination. Also, completely different topic. Pros, a person who is very professional about something, they're just amateurs who know how to gracefully recover from their mistakes. As I said at the beginning, it's natural to make mistakes. Embrace it. Also, don't be the smartest person in the room. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So try to hang out with and learn from people smarter than yourself. Even better, if you can, find smart people who will disagree with you. That's a golden one. Whatever your business might be, whatever company you might start, or whatever, don't be the best. Be the only. And if someone turns you down in a job-seeking process, don't take it personally. Assume they are just like you, busy, occupied, distracted. Try again later. It's amazing how often a second try works. Trust me on this one. So if somebody rejects you for any reason, try again later. And now, some of you are still studying. Some of you haven't graduated yet. Tip, or not a tip, maybe a comment, observation that I might share with you. In this period, probably you don't have a lot of money, and that's completely normal. Nobody does in this phase. Try to live 6 months, maybe a full year, as poor as you can, owning as little as you possibly can. Eat beans and rice from a can, in a tiny room, in a tent, if necessary, just to experience what your worst lifestyle might be. That way, anytime you have to risk something in the future, you won't be afraid of the worst case scenario. You've already been there, so it's not that horrible. Also, the more you are interested in other people, the more interesting they find you. So to be interesting, be interested. Same goes with business communication when you're speaking to your future employer or colleague or something like that. And another one, and this one actually, this morning I had this situation. If you're looking for something in your house and you finally find where it is, when you're done with this thing, let's say it was, I don't know, screwdriver, don't put it back where you found it. Put it back where you first looked for it. Now this one has nothing to do with business communication, but it's one of those things I wish I had known before I graduated. And also, one that I could, it's half a joke. Friends are better than money. So almost anything money can do, friends can do better. And in so many ways, a friend with a boat is better than owning a boat. So always invest in those high quality relationships. And before you are old, one morbid and gloomy one for you. Before you are old, attend as many funerals as you can bear. And listen carefully. Nobody will ever talk about the departed person's achievements, never. The only thing people will remember is what kind of person they were while they were achieving these results. So focus really on those long-lasting impressions. And one thing in job searching process that I would like you to be able to self-communicate to yourselves. If you desperately need a job, you're just another problem for your boss. If you can solve many of the problems that the boss has right now, you're hired. So to be hired, think like your boss. Just this job searching process, we could talk for hours about this topic. But the one thing I would like you to remember from this talk, from this talk is think like your future boss. What could this person be looking for? And when you're going for a job interview, show them that you know what it is. A few days ago, I was talking to a client. He has a company of 250 employees, and we were talking about graphic designers. And this guy said that he doesn't need a graphic designer to come to a job interview and to give him some kind of portfolio. He says, I want him to be proactive. Why not have, if you're a graphic designer, obviously some of you are not, but if you are, create a catalog and bring it proactively to this guy and tell him, listen, this is what I did for your company. You can have it. I want to work here. It's completely different than just clicking on apply or submit or send CV or whatever. And one thing that I would like to close this random session with is you really don't want to be famous. Just read the biography of any famous person. You'll realize what I'm talking about. So be yourself, be unique, and give value to people around you. Now the last one, before I go away. If you remember, I said I will open with the story about birds and I will close with a story about birds. So This one goes. It's not my story. I took it from internet. High in the Himalayan mountains lived a wise old man. So every now and then he would come to the local village to entertain the villagers with his special knowledge and talents. Now, one of his skills was to physically or psychically tell the villagers the content in their pockets, boxes, minds. And so, I don't know, in a box you would hide an apple and he would tell you, it's an apple you have in a box. Now, a few young boys from the village decided to play a joke on the wise old man and discredit his special abilities. So one boy came up with the idea to capture a bird and hide it in his hands, right? And he knew, of course, that the wise old man would know the object in his hand was a bird, but the boy had a plan. Knowing that he would correctly guess or know the object in his hands was a bird, the boy then would follow up with a question, and he would say, "Oh, wise old man, is the bird dead or alive?" Now, if the wise man says it's alive, the boy will just choke it, crush the bird, and the old man will be a fraud. If the old man says, no, it's dead, then he will say, oh, look, it's alive. So no matter what the old man said, the boy would prove that he was a cheater. So the following week, the wise old man came to the village, and the boy quickly caught a bird, and he said, "Wise old man, what it is that I have in my hands?" And he said, "You have a bird, my son." He was right. The boy then followed up. He said, "But old man, tell me, is the bird alive or is it dead?" Now, the wise old man looked at the boy, thought for a moment, and he said, "The bird is as you choose it to be. Everything is in your hands." And it's the same thing with your life. So the power is in your hands. You have a lot of talents, you have a lot of good things going to happen for you, but as I said, what will you do with that? And with this one, I close.
Thank you, Ante, so much. This was amazing. Yeah, I was thinking all the time during presentation how grateful I am you actually are part of this and you agreed to be part of ENDietS on this Students' Day. Thank you so much. What really resonated with me when you said, if you give, you will gain. That's absolutely true. That's like actually the mission of ENDietS. We want to give as much as we can and share together.
So a part of your presentation that I kept really thinking of it is when you said about the funerals. I got so triggered, but it's so true.
Yeah,
what true. The other people, what the other people will.
Yeah, and we have a few questions here. One of them, like, of course, because you mentioned that you want your work experience, right? So we would like to know about your first job.
Okay, okay. Actually, two stories to share here. So in 2012, I graduated. And in Croatia, we had a huge recession. So it was really hard to get a job. And I got a summer job as some kind of bar manager. But it was a beach bar. And it was an amazing beach bar. And I was like supposed to manage stuff there, but not the real deal, but those secondary things. And since it's a beach bar, it wasn't connected to the sewers. Just wasn't. So they had this septic pit. And you would have to pump it out. It's a really ugly story. And when people asked me, what do you do? I said, and I was the person who organized when the truck would come and pump it. I said, I'm the shit coordinator. So this was one of the things that I did back then. And second story, and this is a real true story. In 2012, Christmas, I had sent 148 job applications. Not a single one reply. Okay, I made a huge mistake. I was just randomly just clicking yes, accept, send, apply without even changing my letter of application or CV or just, it was generic. So it was the most stupidest mistake I could have done. So what happens later is that in January 2013, I get a call. Could you come from my hometown to Zagreb? So this is like 500 kilometers for a testing. Of course. I'm there. And he told me, okay, in this email, you will find a link to download this special software for translation. I was translating back then. And you need to learn how to work the software and everything. I was like, sure, I'm coming. And the software was quite simple. I've learned everything about it. So I come to the testing and they told me, sit and show us what you know. And I was like, okay. So this tool functions in the following way. On the left side of the screen, you have the original, the source language. And in the right side of the screen, you're supposed to write down the target, so the translation. So if you have, for example, yellow, in Croatian, you would write down žuto. If you have a house, it's kuća in Croatian, so you just write down kuća. So if you have a yellow house, you would have žuta kuća, and you just always accept. Then you have red, you translate it as crveno, and from that point on, if you have red house, the computer knows what to do with it. Really good piece of software. So the language that they gave me was like German. So it said something like gelb. And I remember, okay, gelb is yellow. I went to high school, I had German. Strange that they selected German, but okay. Second word was like Wissenschaft. What? Science? And enter. So ultimately, they said, okay, are you done? Yeah. And then they checked the translation. It's good, it's good. You know how to use the software. Bye, go home. We'll send you some files for the weekend, and then you can start translating. I was like, okay, maybe this was a file they had and everything. Monday, I receive an email, text in German, and I'm supposed to translate it to Croatian. Now, in case you didn't realize, I don't speak German. So I went back through my emails. So on this, apply, join, send, yes. The headline of the ad was like this big. German translator required. And I saw translator, I was like, yeah, that's me, yes.
Yeah.
So 1 full year, I've been working as a translator for German language. How? Google Translate is a wonderful thing. German-English combination is beautiful. So I would just translate from German to English. I knew a bit of German. It's not like I was an idiot. So I would then from English to Croatian, it was easy for me. And I would always double check with my friends who spoke German. Did I understand the sentence correctly? So that's how I got my first job.
Yeah, it's really interesting story. Actually, we have to be really careful what we're applying for and be more focused, right? Yeah, we have one more question. Thank you for sharing your story. It's really interesting, especially the first one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so another question was about, do you have any tips about job interviews? Do you have any tips for us specifically for the job interviews?
Okay. As I said, it's a topic in itself, and you can find really great articles and stuff like that. What I would like to summarize with as a tip is if you're going on a job interview, don't make my mistake. So read about the company, read about the job description you're applying for. And now it's COVID and some of the job interviews will be online, but definitely come prepared. Research about the company, research about the future employer, try to see how you fit in, be proactive, and make them really understand why you're selling yourself. Of course, and it's okay to be modest, it's okay to be humble, but don't forget about it. You have equal business stature. They will give you money, not for free, but for the services you're able to provide and for the value you can bring. So if you're applying for a job, let's say it's in marketing industry or in some kind of clinic or whatever, research them, understand what it is that they do, see how you fit in, and modify. Tailor-made application is much, much better than just generic application. And also CVs, if it's really not required by the company, don't use Europass template. Really don't.
Yeah.
You have for free, and some of them are paid, like $5, you can have really nicely designed CV templates. People really react to this. Don't print it on 80-gram paper. It's cheap. Invest in 200-gram paper. I'm guessing like printing on 80-gram, one page would cost you like 10 euro cents. Printing on 200-gram will cost you 50 euro cents. So it gives a completely different feeling about it. And as I said,
exactly.
do research this topic because you can't get everything in 30-second summary. So prepare.
Yeah.
So I have a question. In case I have a job interview, what is the difference between me being a selfish and my ego is higher than expected than being, how to say, self-confident?
Very good. Okay, brilliant question. Thank you for this one. It's not black and white, and it's not really easy because it really depends on the situation, depends on the type of person you are to begin with. One thing that my clients who really employ a lot have been complaining about is that this generation of millennials is being very, very entitled. I would dare even to say some of them show arrogance in their behavior, cockiness. Look at me, I came here to work, give me the salary, give me the monies, I know everything. That's ego being overly inflated. However, as I said, don't do this. You're not a slave. You're a person with qualifications, with experience or without experience. You have knowledge, you have something to offer. So what would really boost your self-confidence? As I said, preparing. So if you know that this company is looking for a dietitian for some reason, and they're looking for a person who is qualified in method A, B, and C, are you? Yes, you are. You should be self-confident about it. Did you go to some kind of course? Do you have another certificate? Mention it, but mention it in the terms of how it brings value to the company, to the employer, what will change for them. Don't mention it as a, check this out, look at this, my swag. Don't do that. So I would say the attitude, the way you position yourself around it, the direction in which this interaction is going is critical. So if you're telling them, I have the knowledge, I have the skills that will benefit you, that will give value to you, that will get you there where you want to go faster, that's being employer-centric or being focused on the needs of the other person. If you're like, look at what I got and you should give salary to me, not really going to go that well.
The wrong way. So one more question. Imagine that I got this job. It's a great position for first experience, but with a really low salary. Should I accept it?
It really is a tricky question and depends on your position. When I just started, so it's easiest for me to talk about my experience, but when I started in Croatia, we had this program of helping young people who freshly graduated to get some experience, but really the money I received was, I was a high school teacher back then, and the salary was like 220, 30 euros per month. Some of my students had more pocket money than I as a teacher. So it was quite, if you let it get into your head, it was humiliating. I felt really down at times. However, it did push me to go further and to find something new. Should you accept a low-paying job? If money is your criteria, if you're desperate for money and you don't have means to have a second job or part-time job or another source of income, I'm afraid you should, because you are not in position to really risk. But if you know that your position, your set of skills is, first of all, well communicated, and second, looked after or looked for by other employers, go there. So we would definitely here to debate whether you should or not accept a low-paying job. We would need to define what low-paying job means. My 2 cents on this is, you're not marrying these people. You're going there to offer your services. In due time, they could appreciate you and pay you more. You can always be proactive and ask for more. If they don't, you can always go somewhere else. But if you don't ask, they will never offer it to you. That's definite. So I don't know if this answers the question, but it is a complex issue.
Yeah, I think that we have to practice cards to ask for what we think we deserve. And if they don't give us back, probably it's a time for a change.
There are some new times now, and in the past, our parents were stuck with one employer for their whole life. And it was kind of scandalous to change companies. I mean, what happened? You were fired? We live in a different environment, completely different environment. And it's totally okay for you to switch companies. I'm not saying job hopping. So go, 3 months here, 6 months there, then you have an issue. And your future employer will ask, what the hell happened here? You couldn't land the job and keep the job for more than 3 months? What? But gaining experience, you become like a Swiss knife to your future employer. So you worked 2 years in this company, 3 years there, then you tried entrepreneurship, didn't really work out, you learned something from it. It's all the way how you present it. So if we go back to what I said at the beginning, It's not about you, it's about them, how you bring value to them. And if you communicate this effectively, then you're golden. You don't have a problem with low salary or asking for a higher salary. And I know how difficult it is to ask somebody, give me more money. It is. Especially if you have nothing to offer, then it's definitely difficult. But always look at it as a transaction. So if you want to buy a laptop, you can buy Acer, okay brand, but cheap, not high quality. You can buy, I don't know, MacBook, okay brand, quite okay, high quality. The price is different. It really depends. What is your employer looking for? Will they be okay with a typewriter, or do they need a space shuttle launching computer machine? You need to be the one to communicate your worth in this relationship.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And what else I kept from your presentation at the very beginning is that it's really important to be punctual. And today and yesterday that we had our triad session, you were really punctual. So whatever you suggest, I think you're already doing it for yourself. So you're a great example of this.
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
try to practice what I preach. In my whole career, so I told you 15,000 hours of teaching, not 5, not 50, 15,000 hours. I was never late in my life. Never, ever, for a single class. I mean, it's a principle I really, but then again, if you're late on my class, you're gonna have a problem. So I'm really about it, not because I think my time is more valuable than yours, but I think that it's not a good habit to waste your time. Think of it. 2 years ago, you bought something, it broke down, you threw it away. Big deal. Money comes, money goes. But time is a very expensive resource and a very limited resource. So you need to be really respectful of other people's time. That's my position.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Ante. Once again, you can see in chat, people are really happy and excited, and I think they learned a lot, and they're really
I
grateful.
can't see the chat. That's the problem.
You can't. Really, it's like a lot of thank you, Ante. It was really interesting. You inspired everyone. Yes.
Listen, I'm on LinkedIn. It's really not hard to find me. Okay, my surname is a bit tricky to pronounce, but not tricky to write. So you can connect on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll be more than glad to do it.
Thank you, Ante, once again.
Thank you so much.
Take care, people. Bye. Thank you for having me. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. So I think it was a great presentation from Ante. I think we got a lot of things. I was checking when he was mentioning something, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Luckily, I got many ticks, so I think...
yeah, it was really inspiring. Yeah, I really think that he has a great influence, and I think we all gained a lot of knowledge and information, and actually applicable advices and tips we can use, and especially in these times when everyone is a little bit messed up with all of this situation and searching for jobs and everything. So I can really feel the pain.
Yes. So his name is all over our social media. So if you want, you can check him by his name.